I'm often asked my opinion about the cause or treatment of some medical condition, but the question to instead ask is, what does the science say? What does the best available balance of evidence published in the peer-reviewed medical literature have to say right now? Welcome to the Nutrition Facts podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Michael Greger. Today we look at which method of cooking vegetables preserves the most antioxidants. Here's our first story. You may remember when I compared the effects of different cooking methods on different phytonutrients in bell peppers, mushrooms, and a few other veggies. Well, food scientists have outdone themselves in this study. They looked at 6 different cooking methods on 20 different vegetables, comparing 3 distinct measures of antioxidant activity. That's more than 300 separate experiments to figure out the best way to cook our vegetables. First, though, let's figure out the worst in terms of loss of antioxidant content. Consider boiling, microwaving, pressure cooking in water, griddling, like cooking in a frying pan without oil, frying in a frying pan, and baking at about 400 degrees Fahrenheit. What's your guess for the worst? The worst is boiling when it comes to losing antioxidants. The second worst, boiling under pressure. When we use wet cooking methods, some of the nutrition is lost in the cooking water. When it comes to preparing vegetables with your antioxidants in mind, water is not a cook's best friend, but how bad is bad? It may be less than you think. Averaging over those 20 vegetables, boiling only removes about 14% of the antioxidants. So if you really like boiled broccoli, fine, just eat 1 more floret. 7 florets of boiled broccoli has all the antioxidant power of 6 florets of raw broccoli. So the best way to eat your veggies is really whichever way will get you to eat the most of them, with the exception of frying, which not only adds empty calories, but also toxic byproducts that are produced when oils are heated to frying temperatures. What's the gentlest cooking method, the one that preserves the most antioxidants? Microwaving, which preserves more than 97% of the antioxidant. One vegetable has antioxidants that can really get clobbered no matter how you cook it, losing up to 75% of its antioxidant capacity. What's the one vegetable that's really best eaten raw? Was it artichoke hearts, asparagus, beets, broad beans, also known as fava beans, broccoli? I hope we don't have to eat raw Brussels sprouts. Cauliflower, carrots, celery, eggplant, garlic, green beans, leeks, corn on the cob, onions, peas, bell peppers, spinach, Swiss chard, or zucchini. The most vulnerable vegetable is the bell pepper. So I try to eat those raw or add them right at the end of whatever I'm cooking, like pasta sauce, so it really just kind of gets warmed up without really being cooked. On the other hand, 3 vegetables are hardly affected by cooking at all. You can even boil them and still retain nearly all their antioxidants. Can you guess at least one of the 3? They're artichokes, beets, and onions. Boil away. Asparagus gets an honorable mention here. It's pretty much unaffected by any cooking method except frying, so you can boil asparagus too. Final question, and perhaps the most interesting, there are 2 vegetables that, no matter what you do to them, tend to increase in antioxidant value. They may become even healthier upon cooking. Which 2 are they? First, the runner-up, green beans. With the exception of boiling and pressure cooking, they actually increase in antioxidant power when cooked, so microwave green beans have more antioxidants than raw. And tied for first, which 2 vegetables nearly always increase in value no matter how you cook them? Carrots and celery. So when we make a nice vegetable soup, we can actually boost their nutrition. One vegetable that wasn't covered was one of my favorites, kale. As I discussed in my video, How to Cook Greens, kale can be cooked by blanching or steaming to boost antioxidants, and even be boiled and not lose antioxidant nutrition. When I used to teach medical students at Tufts, I gave a lecture about this amazing new therapeutic called Ilacor B. I talked about all the new science, all the things it could do, excellent safety profile, and just as they were all scrambling to buy stock in the company and prescribe it to all their patients, I did the big reveal, apologizing for my dyslexia. I had gotten it backwards. All this time, I had been talking about broccoli. Sulforaphane is thought to be the active ingredient in broccoli, which may protect our brain, protect our eyesight, protect us from free radicals, induce our detoxification enzymes, help prevent cancer, as well as help treat it. For example, I've talked about how sulforaphane can target breast cancer stem cells. But then I talked about how the formation of this compound is like a chemical flare reaction requiring the mixing of a precursor compound with an enzyme in broccoli, which is destroyed
by cooking. This may explain why we get dramatic suppression of cancer cell growth from raw broccoli, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, but hardly anything from boiled, microwave, or steamed, except for microwave broccoli that actually retains some cancer-fighting abilities. But who wants to eat raw Brussels sprouts? I shared a strategy, though, for how to get the benefits of raw in cooked form. In raw broccoli, when the sulforaphane precursor, called glucoraphanin, mixes with the enzyme, called myrosinase, because you chopped or chewed it, given enough time, sitting in your upper stomach, for example, waiting to get digested, sulforaphane is born. Now, the precursor is resistant to heat, and so is the final product. But the enzyme is destroyed, and with no enzyme, there's no sulforaphane production. That's why I describe the hack and hold technique. If you chop the broccoli, Brussels sprouts, or kale, collards, cauliflower first, and then wait 40 minutes, then you can cook them all you want. The sulforaphane is already made. The enzyme has already done its job, so you don't need it anymore. When most people make broccoli soup, for example, they're doing it wrong. Most people cook the broccoli first, then blend it. But now we know it should be done the exact opposite way. Blend it first, wait, then cook it. What if we're using frozen broccoli, though? Commercially produced frozen broccoli lacks the ability to form sulforaphane because vegetables are blanched, flash-cooked, before they're frozen for the very purpose of deactivating enzymes. This prolongs shelf life in the frozen food section, but the enzyme is dead by the time you take it out of your freezer, so it doesn't matter how much you chop it or how long you wait, no sulforaphane has got to be made. This may be why fresh kale suppresses cancer cell growth up to 10 times more than frozen. The frozen is still packed with the precursor. Remember, that's heat-resistant. And they can make lots of sulforaphane out of the frozen broccoli by adding some exogenous enzyme, but where are you going to get some myrosinase enzyme from? Now, they bought theirs at a chemical company, but we can just walk into any grocery store. This is another cruciferous vegetable, mustard greens. All cruciferous vegetables have this enzyme. Mustard greens grow out of little mustard seeds, which you can buy ground up in the spice aisle as mustard powder. So if you sprinkled some mustard powder on your cooked frozen broccoli, would it start churning out sulforaphane? We didn't know until now. Boiling broccoli prevents the formation of any significant levels of sulforaphane due to the inactivation of the enzyme. However, addition of powdered mustard seeds to the heat-processed broccoli significantly increased the formation of sulforaphane. Domestic cooking leads to enzyme inactivation of myrosinase, and hence stops sulforaphane formation, but addition of powdered mustard seeds to cooked cabbage family vegetables provides a natural source of the enzyme, and then it's like you're practically just eating it raw. So, if you forget to chop your greens in the morning for the day, or are using frozen, just sprinkle some mustard powder on the top at the dinner table, and you're all set. Or some daikon radish, or horseradish, or wasabi, all cruciferous vegetables packed with the enzyme. Here they just used like a quarter teaspoon for 7 cups of broccoli, so just a tiny pinch can do it. Or you can add a small amount of fresh greens to your cooked greens, because the fresh greens have that enzyme that can go to work on the precursor in the cooked greens. One of the first things I used to do in the morning is chop my greens for the day, and so when lunch and supper rolls around, they're good to go, as per the hack and hold strategy. But now with the mustard powder plan, I don't have to pre-chop.
Visit NutritionFacts.org/audio to see all the podcast episodes with descriptions that include links to their associated videos. Sources cited and other details are available on each video's page. Information about my books, How Not to Die, How Not to Diet, How Not to Age, and my latest books on Ozempic, and a new one just out on lowering cholesterol naturally, is at NutritionFacts.org/books, and all proceeds from book sales go to charity. And sign up for our free newsletter at NutritionFacts.org/subscribe to stay updated on the latest bite-sized videos and articles. NutritionFacts.org is a science-based nonprofit, and everything on the website is free. There are no ads, no corporate sponsorship, strictly non-commercial, not selling anything, Just put it up as a public service, as a labor of love, as a tribute to my grandmother, whose own life was saved with evidence-based nutrition. Thanks for listening.